All right, guys. Well, welcome back to HP Plus. This is our special 2017 in review, and of course, I've got Nick and Harrison back to be my co-judges as we sit back and judge it, because we think we have opinions and they're pretty good. We're gonna judge it. We're gonna judge it, right?
Some opinions.
Come in with some heat. You gotta come in with some
judge
heat.
it.
Judge.
All right. Well, we'll try it again next time. Anyway, so 2017 has been a ridiculously good year for games. Like, I feel like almost everybody's been satisfied across the board. Most of the genres have been covered and well done. So, I mean, props to y'all developers, because it's been pretty damn good. So, 2017, it started in January.
Like every
And
year.
some crazy shit went down in January. And a game came out to kind of match the chaos.
What game was
No way.
January 24th, Resident Evil 7 came out. And it was actually kind of a revitalization of the horror genre sort of to begin with. Especially for Resident Evil, which is a franchise that was kind of dormant for a while and kind of got stuck in being balls to the wall action with like Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 all kind of followed that vein of like get crazy with your gun. 7 decided to go back in a different direction, kind of more to the horror roots, which I personally like a lot. And I think they kind of took some notes from PT and watched that kind of fall apart. So they kind of like, well, we can try and do that. So I know I completed it. Harrison
Never
thinks it's
played it.
Really scary.
It was spooky.
And then Nick has played it as well.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it quite a lot. So I was very happy that it took a few pages out of the PT playbook. I'm glad that they looked on what Silent Hill was going to be doing for their next installation in the series, but was unfortunately cut short by Konami. And I think for the most part they knocked it out of the park. I think Capcom really killed it with Resident Evil 7. It's not a perfect game. I kind of feel like it falls apart a little bit towards the third acts, which, again, I don't want to spoil it, but up to that point, it's a pretty perfect game.
For sure.
And I think, my favorite Resident Evil game would probably be the remake of Resident Evil 1. And what worked for me in that game was that it's a very claustrophobic, very horror-influenced game. Resident Evil hasn't been about horror for a long time. 4 was probably the bridge in the series between, the old school of doing the series and the new style that they came up with. But the last few entries have been very Hollywood, for lack of a better word.
Oh, yeah.
They've been very Michael
Bay, that's what I was going to say. Explosions everywhere.
Let's just punch boulders and shoot things with rockets.
Go to China and fight zombies.
Yeah, fucking blow it up.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil 7 had the interesting combination of mixing some very new game mechanics and a new view for the series with the first-person view. And
which is also VR too, which would be a cool experience.
If I'm ever fortunate enough to get the PlayStation VR, Resident Evil 7 is going to be one of the first games I play for sure. But it really captured what I loved about the series, which was claustrophobic, limited resource, you fear the unknown horror. It's one of the last really survival horror games that I can think of in a long time, and for the most part, I was a big fan.
Like, what was so cool about it was the family and like how like twisted the family members were, and you're kind of like are trapped in their dungeon, which is like it's this like Louisiana plantation, and it's just like really creepy and spooky, and like goes back to that remake roots of just like the unknown and like what is around the corner. And like you have that sense of really for the first time since Resident Evil 3 where like you can't just gun them down. Like you gotta run.
Right. And that's definitely one of the cornerstones of survival horror is that you can't use a lot of conventional gameplay mechanics to get through the game. You can't just run and gun and charge through and hope for the best. Like, it really does reward critical thinking, not just in the puzzles, but in sort of how you engage the enemies in the game. And, you know, all those things sort of combine to make a game and a feeling where you really feel like any wrong move could be your last. And it's something that I don't think many AAA
Well, it hasn't been done
had in a long
for
time.
a long time. It's like
Yeah.
that revital. I know, like, that Fear series was popular, and I forget the name, but it was kind of like an indie game that came out for PC in like 2013. It was like super scary, first person survival
Oh, you're
horror.
thinking of
Like
Amnesia.
Amnesia, exactly. Yeah, and that was like super scary. So, but for a AAA company to stack their biggest franchise on this concept was really cool, and I super appreciated that. And for that reason, I gotta say it was like probably my game of the year, and I'm gonna say that with an asterisk, which you'll find out why coming up. Just because the first 2/3 of that game was phenomenal.
In my
Like,
mind, the first 2/3 are perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, but like, and then it kind of becomes a totally different game and goes way back. I think they're trying to appease the Call of Duty Michael Bay fans from the previous game.
Yeah, definitely. There's
So-
some. Okay, so there's something that I think happens naturally in every survival horror game. Even the favorites, like you and
Yeah.
I think Silent Hill 2 is probably, for me, and I think for you,
Yeah.
probably like
Top.
the best survival horror game ever made
Mhm.
across the board. But in every survival horror game, I think there's this thing that happens probably like halfway to 2/3 through the game where you've played it well, you've conserved your ammo, you've figured the game out, and suddenly things just aren't scary anymore. And that definitely happens in Resident Evil 7. But I feel that it's more than that. Like, Resident Evil 7 sort of dips back into some of the conventional Resident Evil tropes without going into too much depth. Like,
Well,
it really
it gets
slides back into some comfortable ground.
And it gets tropey with like haunting movies too. It gets like
Yeah.
two little girl ghosts popping up and like getting in your face.
Shades of Fear.
Like, yeah,
The
and like,
PC game.
and I feel like that was kind of out of character for Resident Evil. But all things aside, like, I can look past that last third just because of how good the first two acts were.
It's
yeah.
really, really good.
Yeah, and
Like,
intense.
really.
Like, I don't think I've been that scared in a game since playing PT. So, job well done, Capcom. I hope the franchise continues going well. So, my game of the year for this point in the year. So, anyway, so, life goes on. Harrison's hanging out and being cool.
It's March all of a
and it's
sudden.
March. Well, you know, it's like getting warmer and the flowers.
They're blooming.
And blooming.
Things are blooming.
And Harrison needs to
Shit's
figure out an
getting
excuse to stay
warmer.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's pollen.
And the beautiful Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. So,
Well, not only did it come out, but so did the Switch.
Yeah.
And I got the Switch, and I got this awesome version of it. It's pretty fun. I like it. It has some stuff.
pretty
Best thing
Yeah.
that came with that deluxe edition was the case for the Switch. That thing is awesome because it replicates the Sheikah slate that Link has in the game. This is this was a game that, especially when I first heard about it and they said that they were going to do an open world, I was very concerned that they were going to screw it up and ruin something that I really loved. But I think that they did a phenomenal job with the open world aspect of it. It was one of the, like, I just kept playing it and I kept getting deeper and deeper into the game. And I just loved it. It was everything that I kind of wanted it to be because it reminded me of Ocarina of Time, just like wandering around and collecting. And I love collecting, and one of my favorite parts of Ocarina of Time was that you got all these different outfits that kind of gave you some special abilities. Like you got the blue outfit that lets you go underwater and things like that.
red outfit that makes you go
Fire
the
resistant.
lava.
Yeah. So you got some of the same things that you were used to, but they threw in so many different outfits, and I just like the collecting aspect a lot with Zelda games, and that one just went crazy because it had the 900 Korok seeds, and at one point I was like, I'm not going to do this. This is too crazy. And then at one point I was like, yes, I'm very much
crazy.
going to do this. and I have lost my mind, so I am going to continue to do this. But I really enjoyed the game, and I think
he's very smart.
Thank you. I think part of the reason that I also enjoyed playing it so much was that I could detach it and not play it on the TV, and I could play it handheld. So a lot of like the Korok hunting and stuff like that, that was a lot of fun, just being able to play it handheld while I was doing something else or had a TV show on. It was something that I did that I wanted to do, and it is obviously not something that was necessary to the game, but I really enjoyed the whole exploring aspect of it, and I'm very happy with the way that the game went. It was it definitely took a step away from other games that they've done, and it's not so based on the dungeon system. They do have lots of mini dungeons, which I thought were a lot of fun because each thing is kind of different, and like even just getting to some shrines, the shrines were the little mini dungeons, and just getting to them was a challenge enough for them to reward you. And I had so much fun with the game, and I kept playing it, and it was something like I kind of played as I was playing other games too, because I'd already kind of beaten the game after about probably like 30, 40 hours or something, but I just kept wanting to play it and, you know, find new areas in the world. So that was like, I don't know, for me it took chances. It was different than a lot of other Zelda games, and I was concerned about that, but I was actually really happy because I felt like I was in this world when I played, and it was so solo, and I'm very introverted as a person anyway, so like the idea that there wasn't a Navi or there wasn't anything, it was just Link, and you are Link, and you decide the role and like the way that you want to go. And I also watched my girlfriend play a little bit of it, and it was funny because she just wanted to cook food and she wanted to hunt things, and I was like, no, you need to keep going with the story. And she was like, but I'm having fun. And that's like the thing, is that you could play that game for hours and not actually do the entire game and still have fun. But I really liked the story, and I mean, it wasn't as in depth as maybe some other games, but it was good for me, and I got all the memories. I got the little bonus secret ending at the end of the game, and I was very happy overall with everything. I did love it. It was just one of those things where I didn't think I was going to play it nearly as much as I did, and it took over a lot of my year. So
yeah, for sure.
Nick hasn't played it yet.
I played very
put your toes in the water.
I've dipped my toes in the water, so to speak. I was a little late to the Switch party. I just got it about a month ago, and I know.
Release day.
Release day, a few days after.
Gamers game, but
I got on release day.
Yeah, so I haven't played it very much. But the few minutes I have spent with it definitely confirm a lot of what I've heard about it, and you sort of mentioned it earlier, was that it kind of captured that feeling of Ocarina of Time for you. One of the big appeals to me of Ocarina was there was this sort of just pure sense of discovery in the game. Like, it really rewarded and encouraged you kind of going out into the world on your own and just seeing what you could turn up. And that's sort of the purest form of Zelda for me, is just walking around and seeing what's in that cave, or under that rock, or in that dungeon. And from all the reviews I've read and the very admittedly little that I've played of the game, it definitely seems like that's something that was foremost in their mind in the design process, and something that they really captured.
I just like when you say that, it's like, I mean, I know that I said it was like Ocarina of Time, but it's also, so many people compare it to like the early Zelda games on Super Nintendo.
It reminds me most of the first Zelda game, honestly.
Because it doesn't, there's no hand holding, and I really like that, because so many of the games, like especially if you really like Zelda games and you've been playing since Ocarina of Time, you understand the battle mechanics for the most part, and this one doesn't teach you that. It's just like, here's the world, now do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like that, because it just, I also didn't realize how accustomed I had gotten to that tutorial section of Zelda games. So when that was completely like eliminated, I was cool. Like, this is really cool.
Dark Souls style.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would feel that objectively, you pretty much have to call Breath of the Wild the game of the year. Like, I mean, just how everything stacks up. The open world was phenomenal. It was so colorful, and you got that sense of discovery, and it was just like gigantic. And I thought that was really cool. Like the The gameplay was pretty much perfect, I would have to say. Like, you can't really harp against it. It's like, as much as I love the game, I do have to say I was a little disappointed because for my image of Zelda, which I really came into with like A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and like later into like Twilight Princess, which like blew my mind. Like those would have to be my 3 favorites. Like I felt like that it just like, and I feel like this is kind of just symptomatic of the open world genre just to begin with, is that it didn't really feel as narrative focused to me, but I can kind of respect it because Zelda has never been super hyper focused on the story.
Definitely.
Besides like Twilight Princess, which is one of my favorites because I feel like that one is the most laser focused on the story out of all of them, and for some reason that clicked with me because I guess I'm an old school RPG fan. But Breath of the Wild, like just how they pulled that off on the Switch technically is crazy too. Like, and it looks beautiful while handheld too. You can tell that blood, sweat, and tears and passion went into that game. And like, for as much as I can nitpick about like missing the traditional dungeons and there not being enough boss fights, like I can really, like I could give it enough due credit for those elements. And even though it wasn't the Zelda game, I imagine in my mind, I totally respect it, and objectively, I don't think you can really argue that there's been a game better this year. So, yeah, okay, I hope that was well
No, and
yeah,
I just,
Does that make
one
sense?
thing
Like what I'm
that I
saying?
want to like kind of say
Yeah.
is that I was so excited about this game, and when I first bought it, I was like, I am only playing it in docked mode. I want that super immersive experience where I'm going to be right in front of the screen, and I'm just going to be like, am I in Hyrule or am I in my living room? But I like that went out the window. Within like 3 days, I was already playing it handheld, and I was like, this is amazing that something this kind of complicated is this portable.
Right.
Because I'm like the DS, the 3DS, like I've played some games on it. I've really enjoyed it, but it's nowhere like the graphics. Obviously, they're a lot better, but like having a game like that, and like, you know, as they've like kind of shown, they've put other games on the Switch, and it's like, it's just amazing being able to play a game on your TV and then instantly taking it and putting it on handheld, and it makes it more easy for people, accessible, I guess.
It's still very impressive to me, absolutely, that they can pack that much that much power or horsepower into that small of a package.
Yeah, it's a huge technical.
It's a really
accomplishment.
impressive feat.
Yeah.
Because it loses some like resolution and things like that, but like,
I think it
but
still
when
looks
you're
good.
still playing in handheld, like, how can you complain?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I think even
I don't mean to cut off the Zelda love, but we should probably move on.
No.
Yeah.
This is more
Yeah,
Switch love
but
at this point.
We all love the franchise, and we'll see. It'll be
So what's-
interesting to see what they do next because I feel like they're at a crossroads.
Well, they're already in development for a new game.
I mean, I expect that,
Yeah.
but I'm.
Wait, they're
next-
making another Zelda game?
No
way.
Yeah.
Well, see, apparently, I was
yeah.
listening to someone who was talking about, like, okay, usually they have a console version and they had a handheld version, they would swap off, but now everything is a combination of console and handheld, so now they're going to be putting them out more frequently.
I
And
feel like the canon ones though are like the console ones to me. Like
I
those
really
are
enjoyed
like
them, but I
those are
also
the
honestly,
main
some of
ones.
my-
Minish
Yeah.
Cap was a very good game.
And
So
Link's Awakening. is
I've
fantastic.
never finished Minish Cap. It's on the list for sure. But it feels weird to say that I have a game on the list that's been out for like at least 12, 15 years. But honestly, the handheld Zeldas, where they capture some of my favorite things about Zeldas, where the difficult puzzle-solving aspect of it. And Link's Awakening is one of the best Zelda games for my money.
Link's Awakening rock.
And I still love Oracle of Ages. And Oracle of Seasons. Oracle of
Yeah.
Ages is the more puzzle-centric one, and Seasons was the more gameplay difficult one. But yeah, I think the handheld Zeldas were amazing. And what was the one they did recently on the 3DS? It wasn't Link to the Past. It was Link Between Worlds.
Yeah,
That
was really
was-
cool.
that was
Well,
excellent.
sequel to Link to the Past.
It
which
was
is
excellent.
One of my favorites.
And that was sort of, and we'll talk about this later, that was sort of
Yeah.
like the Odyssey to 64 for the Zelda series, where it's like they take a lot of what works in the old world and repurpose it and bring a lot of the familiar in while still making some very new choices that drive the series forward.
It's an epic franchise.
It's a legend.
So the next one we got on our list came out on March 7th. very close after Zelda. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? But Nier came out, Nier Automata. And I feel like that was probably one of the biggest surprises of the year.
Absolutely.
And like kind of, it at least felt to me like Square was giving a Hideo Kojima-esque director, Yoko Taro, a chance to do something weird and offbeat. And they developed it at Platinum Games, but Yoko Taro still had creative control with his team at Square, so it was an interesting combination for them to undertake. And a lot of people were just floored by it. Like, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I liked how it reminds me of Resident Evil 2 a little bit, how you get the layered scenarios where you get to see the game from different perspectives. It had an interesting combat system and really balanced RPG and action really well, and had its own like interesting flavor to it. The music was fantastic. It hit a lot of notes for me. Like I totally think it should be on the list in Canada. I know Nick played it too.
Yeah, I finished the game earlier this year. I finished. So there are 3 main playthroughs in the game, and after the 3 playthroughs, you kind of get a comprehensive look at what the overall story is. But yeah, Nier was sort of a bit of a unknown quantity. I didn't really know anything about the franchise going into it this year. From what I understand, it's an offshoot of an RPG series called Drakengard.
So like yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same universe. But he also made Nier, Yoko Taro, for PS3. It was a super sleeper cult hit that a lot of people revere to be amazing. I own it. I have not played it yet. But yeah, that was like the origin. So it's got this like weird origin story that's all of a sudden exploded due to Nier Automata.
So, and I think that one of the reasons it sort of penetrated the zeitgeist is a word, is that it sort of threw a lot of convention to the wind. So it does some very unusual things, which you've probably read about if you've read anything about the game. It has double-digit endings. It plays around a lot with the idea of control in sort of the same way that Hideo Kojima does in the Metal Gear series.
And it'll go from 2D to like top-down, like shooter, kind of Galaga.
Which was honestly the first thing that grabbed me, was the way... And Platinum Games always does a terrific action game engine. But, you know, this is sort of an action RPG, but it also has elements of, like, bullet hell shooters, like Karaga or Galaga, or, you know, all those games. But, you know, backing it up, obviously there are a lot of really great gameplay decisions that they made that are very endearing and addictive. But they made some very interesting story choices, and this is definitely one of the weirdest games I've played this year, in mostly good ways.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it's basically like... If Philip K. Dick designed a JRPG, it would be Nier Automata. Like, you know, and Philip K. Dick, of course, was the guy who did Androids from Electric Sheep, and Blade Runner, and Man the High
Space Odyssey.
It just had some of these weird, tricky ideas about sci-fi. It's a very unique game. It has a great soundtrack. It has some really addictive gameplay. It's not perfect. It does take a little while to get into, or at least it did for me. But, you know... It won Soundtrack of the Year, I think, on the Game Awards, and...
its visual palette's very, like, kind of, you know...
Bland.
I won't say bland, but done right. Bland. It's very, like, you know, khaki beigey colored, with, like, dark shades, which gave it its own unique flavor, but I could see how it's not really warm and inviting, and it's got but it's supposed to have this kind of, to go back to Philip K. Dick, is... The whole element about AI and just how sterile everything is, and it's supposed to be just dead, like it's like, you know, it's after this huge post-apocalypse, and but yeah, I really love the idea of it playing with AI theory and developing human emotion and stuff like that, which is super interesting. And Harrison didn't play because it was too scary, but
I played the demo, and I really liked the demo, and it made me want to get the game, but it's just like... It was Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't stop playing it. But it was like, that was one of the games I was just like, I really, really want to play this game. And because especially after playing the demo, I was like, this is kind of crazy. Because like, again, Final Fantasy 15, when you played Pitios, the dungeon, It had weird fixed camera angles, and when I played the demo of Nier, it was like, yeah, there was weird aspects to it where even in the demo, you're getting the top down or you're getting the side screen or whatever, and I was like, this is really cool that it just flipped. And like I wasn't expecting that.
It opens up to like a vertical shooter,
right? And the opening's intense too.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And that demo really made me want to play the game, and it just was like it was as the year went on, there were still games that I like. Persona 5 that we're gonna get into. I just like that was a game that I really wanted to play, but like Nier was another one too. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna play this next month. Okay, hold on,
right.
Just give me like 10 more days, and then it was like, oh God, it's been months now, and like I still haven't played it. I really do want to play that because it, like, you know, from hearing what you all say and hearing what other people say, it seems like a really amazing game. And like a lot of people that I've watched too have said that, you know, it's something that could get completely overlooked, and I definitely don't want to overlook this game from what I've heard. So
I will say, if I can say one more thing about it.
So let me borrow it.
It kind of played with some ideas about like player choice in games in the same way that some other games did in the past few years, like Spec Ops: The Line and Undertale, which was an indie RPG. Undertale especially playing with the notion of, you know, if you encounter enemies, do you fight them, do you kill them, or do you run away and be a pacifist? Mm-hmm. And it kind of dissects those ideas of, you know, that whole dynamic in the game, and it takes some interesting stances, and it's very interesting. It's definitely worth a look.
So I think we can mostly agree that was probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I didn't know anything about it until like pretty much it came. I played that demo and I was like, what is this? And I know that we've talked about it before, where it's just like it didn't get as hyped as other games do.
No. Well, I didn't think they had much confidence in it, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely came in under the radar.
And I think Square didn't push it that hard because they admitted they were surprised. I think it sold like 2 million copies.
Really?
Like they, I think, only expected to sell 1 million. Like that was a huge surprise for them. And I hope that the next one will be even more high quality and to another level.
Well, hopefully they interpret the reception in the right way. Like hopefully they take away, you know, what we actually liked about the game. It's like, oh well, you know, more robots. Let's do more robots. That's definitely what they loved about the game.
So really, the next one will be a test if this can be a new franchise. So we'll find out. So another fantastic game, and then we move on to April 4th, after April Fool's Day, which arrived, one of the longest anticipated RPGs for a long time. It was delayed for I think a year, maybe a long 2 years. So it was like, you know, they worked on it and the work showed. So I'll let you take this, Nick, about Persona 5.
Persona 5, yeah. So this was the first Persona game I'd ever played. I had been sort of tangentially aware of the series, going back to like the Game Boy with the Revelation series. Like Shin Megami Tensei has been sort of a long-running RPG series with several offshoots, one of which was the Persona series. And I'd heard a little bit about it, but I never really dived in. And finally I took the plunge with Persona 5. And, you know, I came in with pretty decently high expectations, and even with those expectations, I was overwhelmed with how good it was. It was the most polished RPG I had ever played, and it came to the table with this sort of old school system that had this fresh, refreshing coat of paint on it. You know, Persona 5 has this turn-based system that, you know, harkens back to some of the really old school RPGs, like the 16-bit and 32-bit RPGs that I grew up loving, that sort of influenced my tastes and, you know, what I love about the genre. But it did it with this sort of flair and panache that I'd never seen before. It did all that with this amazing soundtrack. It's this incredible visual design that sort of tied itself together into this package that was incredibly addicting, and I couldn't put it down. Like, Persona 5 was one of the only games I can remember in recent memory where I finished a 100-hour playthrough, and when I finished the game, I immediately started a new game. No joke.
Psycho.
Yeah.
But you had to get the platinum trophy, right?
And I did.
This has actually been a very
I've ever done that
occurrence.
for, and you know, I think that says something, because I normally cannot put 100 hours into a game, any game, let alone doing it twice. There was something about Persona that just really got its teeth in me that I couldn't stop playing it. I mean,
What makes me really excited about Persona is that it took the old school JRPG formula and popularized it in the modern era. To have a turn-based battle system that's been this successful is awesome, and I think encouraging. And if we can relate about 1632-bit JRPGs, like that was kind of a golden age for that genre, and to see it come back kind of, with those roots really in focus was encouraging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it does it while removing a lot of the old things that drag that sort of system down, like random encounters, the loading screen to the battle, the loading screen out of the battle, all these little time sinks along the way that really just slowed the speed of the game down. Those are problems that were fixed in Persona. The loading screens, at least on PS4, I know it was released for PS3 too, so I can't speak to that, but on PS4 it was
slower,
smooth. Probably. It was incredibly fast. It was really easy to glide into and out of battles. There were several gameplay mechanics that abbreviated or made battles unnecessary. And just with the driving soundtrack behind it, you kind of fall into a rhythm with the commands where it just all sort of feels like you're kind of in tune with the rhythm of the game, if that makes any sense. Like, it was one of those rare instances of a lot of different things kind of converging into a package that really just worked for me. So for me, Persona 5 was my game of the year, and
best music,
and
best gameplay.
Well, not best gameplay.
No, really.
Not really. But the soundtrack, I think, near it's sort of a tie between Nier and Persona, but they're very, very different soundtracks. Like Nier, I would probably not listen to outside of the game, but Persona, I've listened to the Persona soundtrack in my car, at the gym. It just really has a lot of, I do bicep curls to Life Will Change.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, they haven't played it yet, so...
I actually started it.
You started it.
I started it, and for some reason, something distracted me. I can't remember it. I did enjoy it. I felt like it may have been a bit of a slow burn at the beginning. But I can't judge it. I really can't give my opinion on it. I don't feel like it's fair at all because I played 4 or 5 hours, which is like 4 or 5%.
You respond to a game is sort of time and place, and obviously it's the content of the game, but it's also time and place. Like what are you wanting to play at that point in your life? What are you hungry for? And at that particular moment,
at that point in my life, I was very busy with my house.
Yeah.
Like especially in like spring, summer. Like, that was such a huge distraction for me. So, I feel like that kind of created a void for video games. Even though, I will say for the late 2016, where you got, The Last Guardian, Final Fantasy 15, I'm sure I'm forgetting something, all the way through to Persona 5, including, Resident Evil 7, Breath of the Wild, Nier, was it absurd era
There's
for
so
games.
Many
Right?
games.
Right? Isn't it
Trying to pick what you wanna
I would
play.
say what year can you really compare it to? There's some, but it's up there. Would you say?
What year Ocarina of Time came out?
Yeah, 98. 98 was crazy. Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy, Xenogears. It was
I was
insane.
excited about this year, but then it kept coming, and I was like, stop. I was like, I have a job, and I have a girlfriend, and I have family, and I have a dog, and I have friends, and I have to do all the things, but I want to play. And it's just it's tough to find that time to sit and play certain games, and it's Persona 5 is definitely a game I'm still very excited to play.
Really liked Breath of the Wild.
So we should definitely
it's so great.
Yeah.
But
it's
I definitely want to play it. It looks very entertaining. I think the art style looks really fun, and from what I've seen of gameplay, I think it looks it looks fun, and that's what I want to have fun when I play games. So I don't know anything about it, and I know that you don't need to know anything about the previous games. I think for it to make sense, just like the new Xenoblade game. I think and I like that because I'm new to certain types of games, and this is I didn't play a whole lot of like RPG, JRPG when I was growing up. And so now I've gotten a lot more into it in the last like 3-4 years, but like this is like, yeah, I definitely want to play Persona 5.
Welcome to the best genre.
Well, I know.
Yeah, that's it. Just kidding. We love all of them. But I feel like we are going to do like a full review on Persona 5. Like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to beat it.
Nick and I play it first.
Nick and I and Harrison will eventually get together and we will review this game because I feel like that these are the kind of games we want to talk about. So,
and I will just say, Persona 5 is not perfect. It has some pacing issues towards the end of the game, but
it's so long.
I was
like,
so JRPGs kind of have a trend towards triple-digit hours.
I love that, but I'm just saying it's difficult for developers to keep you invested that entire time.
It really, absolutely,
absolutely.
And I think that definitely the strain was starting to show towards the end of the game. But if I can give my final thought on it, like. It was so good. I've never played another Persona game. Like, it was so good. Now I'm seeking out like Persona 4 and the Shin Megami Tensei games, and there's actually
Persona 4 is a huge following.
There's actually Persona 4. I've heard it is excellent. Apparently the definitive version of the game is for the Vita,
the Golden or whatever.
But like, I don't have a Vita, and I don't want to buy a Vita just for Persona
fan.
4 Golden. I'm on a I guess. I'm a reasonable consumer. I might seek it out for the PS2, but anyway, my point being is that it was so good, it made me retroactively interested in the rest of the series. That's how good that's how high my opinion of this game is.
And then on October 27th,
I gotta look up the date. You are supposed to keep talking about it.
I could have, but he made it.
Well, actually, what was the new Metroid game called?
Samus Returns. Samus?
I think it's Samus. I've always called it Samus.
Space
and
Warrior.
When I was a kid and I loved Super Metroid.
Samus.
I remember like finding out like Samus is a girl, like that being like gender bender Nintendo. So proud.
It was a scandal.
Anyway, on September 15th.
March to September?
Well,
did nothing happened?
We were in April 4th, and it honestly was a dry summer for games. Like, objectively, like,
there were some games that came out.
There were some, but nothing. Honestly, if you look at the summer, there was nothing that came out. Because the ones we missed, which we'll talk about, were not, like, I looked at this earlier.
There were games, but it's not like story-heavy games, I guess. Because, like, Splatoon came out for Switch, and that was a...
And the Stormblood Final Fantasy XIV expansion came out in the summer, too.
I'm
just saying for... someone's forgetting the theme of our channel.
I'm just joking.
We have a theme?
Anyway, I just like there were some games,
but they weren't talking points.
Like, but my main point to like what I'm saying is that like Splatoon, that came out. There's some other games. There was Mario Rabbids that maybe I don't remember.
Oh, you really liked that, didn't you?
It was okay.
Kingdom Battles or whatever.
It's okay. I hadn't played that many strategy RPG games, so that was like my first kind of thing, and like I got into it, but they kept Nintendo kept releasing all these games every month, and it was like hard for me to keep track. And then there was also like PS4 games I wanted to play, but like Metroid, that was like I just was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot because I've played some Metroid games and I just get frustrated because like I don't know where I am, I don't know what I'm doing, and then as I played this. I loved it on the 3DS because Samus Returns, the whole bottom screen was like
you're never
map.
lost in that game.
You know where you've gone, you know where to get back to. It gives you little highlighted points, and I was like, thank you, because like I tried playing some of the other games, and they were very difficult for me, and I would get frustrated with myself and just walk away. And like this was like something that made it more easy for me to play.
So Samus Returns, the game that just came out for the 3DS, the Metroid game, is a remake of an old Game Boy game, the second Metroid game ever made, which I think was Samus Returns or Samus is Back or something
pretty
like
much,
that.
Better title.
They just like they switched the title up.
So it's a remake of that game, and in that game, like literally, it is like the definition of Nintendo hard. It is this huge map that you get. There's no in-game map at all. There's no navigation, no really any clue to drive you forward. You really just kind of have to be on it. But
You made a map though.
I made part of the map.
Okay.
I never beat that game.
Okay, because
I never beat that game.
you're not the only person that I know that's made a map.
Yeah,
for the Metroid game.
I legit
because
drew a
they're
map
just
for
like
that.
I don't know where I am. I need to mark everything down.
I had no fucking idea where to go in that game, and I've never beaten it. So I find that there's this sort of big trend right now in games where they're just making everything easier. They're making everything easier, and there's this sort of battle that I think game design has to face with that emerging trend, which is how do we make something more readily accessible, more available to the general public, without sacrificing that sort of difficulty curve. How do we bridge the old with the new? And I think Samus Returns did a really good job of that, because they basically gave you all these tools that you never had in the old games, like the second screen map and the indicators of power-ups, and they would mark places on your map that you saw that you couldn't
If
get
you
to.
mess up, it's your fault.
If you mess up, it's your fault. So the learning curve in the game is really just because the enemies are challenging and the puzzles are challenging, not because of some flaw in the game design. And I think that's sort of been a big trend with Nintendo this year. I'm sorry.
I really want to play this game.
Yeah,
Like
you
I,
should.
I don't own a 3DS.
I mean,
I
you
haven't
love-
played Bravely
you
Default.
love-
I haven't played the Zelda 3D remake.
I don't know how you can say that Super Metroid is one of your favorite games.
It is one of my favorite
Still
games.
haven't played this.
Just because, like you said about Persona with the PS Vita, I don't own a 3DS. So,
well,
I guess we're even Stevens.
This was.
But yeah.
PS Vita?
No, I know, yeah.
Exactly.
I think there's
Exactly.
nothing. Okay.
But anyway, exactly.
So it was just like, for me, this was a great, like, yeah, the other games were very difficult. I found that adding like a little, like, they had a melee attack in this that was a lot of fun because it would slow down the time, and like that was just like a little tiny thing that they added that made it really fun. The map made it more manageable, and like, yeah, like I guess they kind of dumb down games to a degree, but like I think it's for some games maybe they should dumb some down, because they're like, I don't know, it's like I get too frustrated personally when I start playing a game and I'm like, really, I don't know where I'm going.
This is why gaming is so subjective.
Sure.
You may like some things that are difficult that he doesn't like those.
Exactly.
And then you like some things that are difficult that you don't like. So it's like,
but you
That's
admitted
so
that
hard.
like you're like you didn't even
Admit
finish
it.
the game.
admit it.
And it's the same, like, yeah, it's
That
like
I didn't finish the game?
well, not Metroid, but like a previous Metroid in the past.
Oh yeah.
Like, because, and that's like, that's
it was
where I
too
want-
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like, and I think that it's like, I had fun playing the
Like
game when I
lost
played
levels.
it, but at a point I was just like, oh man, I really don't know where I am, and now I feel like I'm really lost, and it's just, I got frustrated with myself because I felt like I was doing something wrong. But it's like, this was like a great way of being like, okay, I know I've been there, I know I need to go there, let's make it happen.
And I think there's been sort of a change in design sensibilities, like that sort of evolved from the arcade coin-op games, where it's like, when you released an arcade game, you wanted to make it so hard that people had to continually pour quarters into it. And when they came out,
$20 to beat it, did it.
beat the
Yeah.
the Simpsons game,
Yeah.
$20 later.
Simpsons game, yeah.
But like,
for sure.
and when
Yeah.
they came out with the NES games and the early Game Boy games, that sensibility still kind of came through, where it's like, this is largely an industry that's, held up on the backs of kids, angling their parents for video games. They can't just beat the game in a week
Good
and
point.
need another game. This has to take them a certain amount of time. So I think, you come from that sort of old school sensibility, and Nintendo's done a very good job of this year by sort of taking a lot of their old properties, Metroid, Mario, Zelda, and preserving what works about them, but also innovating them and sort of
Modernizing
them,
Yeah.
and sort of offering this eye to the future and this sort of willingness to innovate and change.
Yeah.
And meddle with some of their sacred cows, and I think it's
Nintendo
worked out very well. For
has
them.
had a killer year. Like, I mean, I don't think you can dispute that they've pwned, and it feels like it's been a long time. So I'm glad that they succeeded. Anyway, so moving on, Metroid rocked. I need to play it. So Mario Odyssey came out on October 27th to extremely high praise. For me, it was kind of Mario 64 meets Galaxy meets Sunshine. I feel like it combined all the best elements about the 3D Mario games, and even throwing back to the 2D Mario games, I feel like it covered all the bases and then did more. And Mario is like one of those, debut games for all of us when we were kids. So it's got this special place in our heart, and it's to see that it can still exist today and be fun and appealing and be a game that you can just pick up for 20 minutes or 3 hours and still have a blast in it. It was one of the best sandbox games I've ever played. So props to Mario.
Yeah, Nintendo has always been sort of a litmus test for me for where the gaming industry is at, and to see Mario, the original Mario, was one of the first games I ever played, and Mario World was the first game I ever owned. So obviously this is a franchise that we all hold near and dear to our hearts, but Odyssey seemed to me to be kind of a bridge between the old school Mario design and the new school. It took a lot of those groundbreaking steps and design choices they made with 64 and with Sunshine and the open world sort of sandbox platformer thing, and married that with a heavy dose of nostalgia while adding new mechanics on top. And
it was great how much stuff that they added.
So much
they took from older games and put it in. So many of the outfits, like I said, I really like the outfits in Zelda. As soon as I saw that there were so many outfits in Odyssey, I was like, okay, you've got the collector aspect of me really engaged right now. So I really was trying to get as many outfits as I could. I was trying to get as many purple coins. I love that even when you went into the retro 2D aspect of side-scroller aspects in the game, they would even do you would still be wearing the outfit that you're wearing in that 2D 8-bit design, whatever.
For sure.
It was great that they they married the new with the old. They didn't. It was just one of those. It was really cool because it's just it's Mario, and you gotta make Mario great, and they did. I was a little concerned about it, and I will say when I first was playing it, I was getting very. I was okay, this is easy, and I started getting frustrated because I felt like I was blowing through the game, and I didn't want to blow through the game because I wanted to enjoy it. But then so many people were okay, if you're finding it too easy, you just need to beat the game and play the post game. So I immediately was okay, I need to do that. And as soon as I started playing post game, I was okay, now I am where I want to be, because some of the post game stuff is amazing.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's insane.
Because it goes from okay, yeah, we got it, and then
opposite ends of the spectrums. I thought this game was too easy, and then in the post game, it was too hard. So it was just and I love that. That was really cool. So I just thought that Mario
and there's a lot of really fun. I don't know if you want to really go into it, but there's a lot of really fun callbacks to 64 and Sunshine and all these things throughout the canon, going back to Golf and Dr. Mario. It really feels.
Obviously, every Mario character that you possibly could have loved is in that game. Whether it's Dr. Mario, and then the plumber Mario that they had, the design from him was taken from Mario Maker, because he was supposed to be designing or whatever the levels. So I just thought there were so many different little tiny aspects that they took from different Mario games but melded them together. And I at one point I was just oh, this game's too easy, and then at one point I was okay, this game is fantastic.
It's really funny because it's the first, especially with the Metro Kingdom and all the Donkey Kong sort of origin stuff, it really feels to me that the first half of the game, or really the game until you get to the post game, is sort of a Mario museum, a greatest hits kind of in a new game, and then the post game happens. And then it sort of lets you use all these weird new things. And it really forces you to try to actually, navigate these. For sure.
They've done that in other Mario games, but the addition of Cappy to this, the level of technicality that you can get in jumping is insane.
So Mario Odyssey was fantastic. It was good. I think that you can't complain about it.
If you haven't played it, you should play it. And if you think that it's too easy, then beat the game. Just beat the game, and then you'll see.
So then, meanwhile, we're walking down the road of life.
We're walking.
November happens.
Yeah, with Doom and Elder Scrolls, the
ports for the Switch of
You
games
know.
that came out a long time ago. Okay, great. Anyway, we move on to December 1st. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Right here. You saw the big box last time.
that's the steel case.
That is
That's
for
fancy.
us collectors. Triple special edition. Anyway, I will say, like, I still can't get my complete opinion on this game because I'm about, I'd say like maybe third of the way. I have no
How many
idea.
hours are you in?
Probably like 20. Yeah. Maybe a little more.
I'm about 40.
I'm
Okay.
about 4.
Okay, so those are all.
I'm
you can
10 times
add
better
into
than you.
those.
I know.
Yeah, but I will say though that like the reason I said asterisk with 7 was because this game has the potential to take the throne because it's like just a classic JRPG. It's something that I've been wanting for a long time. It's very story focused. The gameplay's awesome. It offers you so much to do, but it still has the classic kind of narrative focused sensation to it. It really is kind of a callback to the 32-bit, like maybe like PS2, like RPG era, and which has been missing a lot. And I think the story's been fantastic, and of course, the franchise has seen its ups and downs. And so far, if it keeps it up, like this could be my game of the year. And like the music's fantastic. Like it's just they're constantly introducing you to new worlds, and it has that sense of wonder and. Like, it just has that whole what the fuck is kind of going on fantastical feel to it. So
You all
yeah.
played earlier. Like, did you play Xenogears, Nick?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so it's like the first Xeno game I played was Chronicles X, and
Which is so weird. The most off the beaten path out
because
of all
from
of them.
what everybody has told me, they're very narrative driven and story driven, and just like I didn't get that from it, and like I beat the game and I put in a ton of time, and I regret.
I regret.
But I will say,
But now you're seeing a new tune.
But yeah, see,
right?
now it's
Yeah.
like with playing this game, it's like it is very story based, and I am enjoying the story, and I think that a lot of the game is very good, and I've been enjoying it obviously because I've put in so much time, but I don't know what to really say about it because I haven't finished it.
Yeah,
I know,
like, it's
I know that
incomplete.
there's still more to come, but so far, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And it like after kind of getting into Chronicles X and then playing this one, I am like enjoying this so much more than I was the other one. And I know so many people like Chronicles X, and it was a good game, and there's a lot of aspects to it that people can enjoy. But for me, I didn't find as much payoff, and I find that I'm getting a lot more payoff with this one.
We'll have a full review for it down the road, but the fact that it made this list should say something. Just because I think it's well done. It's very
And they might
like it.
They might have made the best Nintendo Switch controller.
No, they might have.
Apparently,
Yeah.
there's a little change in the D-pad.
There is.
Really?
Oh dear.
I'm a
Yeah.
big fan, tentatively. I haven't bought it, of the SNES Classic or Pro controller.
Oh,
You've seen that,
yeah,
right?
that's nice.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for nostalgia.
yeah.
No,
No,
and this game's kind of packed with it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it is kind of this like throwback JRPG with like. I mean, like some people say they don't like the art design, but I feel like it fits, and in the context of it all works. It's its own kind of universe, and that you can tell the story is like starts off very light, but you know just from the legacy of the franchise, it's gonna get bizarre and twisted and dark. So
It's always fun playing those games when, like, in the beginning you're like, oh, it's happy-go-lucky, and then at the end you're like, wait.
yeah. And this game kind of had like does a catch-22 at the beginning because the main character gets murdered. Like, and I know it's kind of a
Spoiler!
an hour into the game. Okay, so
He gets better.
yeah, he gets better. Yeah,
He gets
right.
better.
But I will say, like, I can't judge it yet, like Harrison said, but we will come back to this, and it might be our
Well,
first
I
review.
can judge it.
I mean, you can, but you can't.
I've already-
you
But I
judge
mean,
it.
like, yeah, I mean,
but I feel
so-
like you can't give it a full take until it's
yeah,
over.
no, for sure.
Yeah,
And I think
it could be my favorite ever. So we'll see, but it could not be,
Or it might not be.
or it might not be. Stay tuned. So anyway, to run through kind of our categories, like we kind of spilled over the games that we have played, but there are a few popular ones that we haven't, that none of us touched on, regrettably, just because of how many have come out this year.
We've already talked about some of the ones that they played that I haven't.
Yeah, but like Neo, Cuphead, Wolfenstein 2, Horizon. We own Evil Within 2, but we haven't played it yet. They've played the South Park game, but I haven't. Uncharted Lost. Like, there's just been so much shit this year, so like it's hard to keep up.
I really want to play Cuphead, and I don't want to buy an Xbox just to play Cuphead.
It'll come out eventually.
It's on Steam.
It's only in their best
It's on Steam. I just
You have
haven't
to have
got
a
it.
Windows 10. It's a Windows 10. I think it's a Windows 10.
Who doesn't have a
At
Windows
this
10?
point, well, I don't. I have a Mac.
Yeah.
So I know I'm fancy.
I don't have.
You know, so
Maxie, we were recording the audio on. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, like Cuphead, I just think that the art direction of that looks really amazing.
It's really cool.
And it was one of those, and like people that like I've heard like talk about it are just like it destroys you, and I was like, oh, that seems really cool. Like, I thought it might be like a breezy game, but everybody's talking about like it's so tough, and like that's one of the things I like about it. And like people compare it to Dark Souls, and I think about like Dark Souls. It's like after you play like part of a level or something and you die, you're like, okay, now I know that person's there. And that's why Dark Souls reminds me of older video games. And I think that this is a good example of one of those games where it's like, as you keep playing through levels, you're like, okay, now I've gotten 10% further through.
You know what I've actually
this
heard
is
is that Cuphead has dynamic enemy placement. So
oh, really?
It
changes every time
so
you go through.
It's not like those old school games where you can memorize the
then
rollout.
I retract everything I just
and
said.
you're totally fucked.
No,
you're totally fucked.
But that makes it even more interesting because it makes it more dynamic.
Because it takes a lot of those old school game design principles and it brings them this sort of like new way to make it even more difficult.
You seem to get good.
You just gotta get good, bro.
So the point is, we've missed so many good games. We've missed so many.
I just want to say real quick.
What's up?
Cuphead, like the weird appeal that Cuphead has, reminds me a lot of sort of the fanfare that Braid got several years ago. You remember Braid?
I remember Braid for sure.
Explain this to me.
Jonathan Blow, this indie game designer, I think he's come out with 2 or 3 games at this point, or maybe just 2. But he came out with this game called Braid, where it was this 2D platformer with these very beautiful hand-drawn sort of like water paint or pastel water painting backgrounds. But the central dynamic of Braid was it was a puzzle platformer, and the main gimmick was that you could rewind time. So that if you jumped and died, you could rewind it. So you never really died.
Now I remember that.
And then it gradually layered these sort of puzzle mechanics on top, where like you could drop a ring that would affect the speed that time rewound, or there's a lot of little gimmicks that they wound into it. But it was one of the, I think, first like indie darling games that came out for the Xbox Live Arcade. And Cuphead just reminds me a lot of sort of the same sort of acclaim and reception that Braid got.
I showed some clips of Cuphead to people that I work with that don't play video games at all, and they were like, this looks amazing, and I was just
like, that classic Disney,
yeah,
like
Steamboat Willie, yeah,
exactly. It's like
like it has that flair
that
to
1930s animation style.
So it's really fun, like watching like people that I work with, like watch this and because I at one point I just started watching boss videos on YouTube, and I kept pulling one of my coworkers like, look at this, and they were like, that's crazy, and they're like, I want to play this, and I was like, well, you need to get an Xbox,
Let me play it.
And it's like it's funny because I know so many people that play video games, but I don't know anybody that owns an Xbox at the moment.
Well, we love our Xbox fans.
Xbox is awesome.
Y'all rock.
If you like to
you guys
one,
you guys have
games,
we
would
on.
do that.
Yeah, we'll play Cuphead. We'll stream
them
it.
all.
You'll see us love it so much.
There's so many exclusives for Xbox.
Yeah.
It's just
well, to be honest, I do want to play the new Dead Rising and the new Gears of War. So
for sure. Y'all got your IPs. We'll
legitimately like it.
We got it here. So man, so many games we've missed, but it's been a great year. So we're gonna go through real quick for the Golden Budweiser All American Beer to see what our favorite games were of the year. So what's your favorite game of the year?
It's Breath of the Wild.
All right, predictable.
In one game of the year. So it
justifies life.
Thank God for Game Awards.
It's like Jesus.
And I also I live off of Metacritic and
just shit.
I
don't a great year for.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
but I was really happy that the game that I really did enjoy so many other people enjoyed. So that really was fun.
Go Breath of the Wild. So next.
Persona 5, obviously.
Next, we got now Persona 5. This man, I gotta play it. But I don't know. Like Resident Evil 7 was my favorite. This was very hard for me to pick. Honestly, I feel like there've been so many good games, and it's been really difficult for me to place some above the others. So I gotta go with Resident Evil 7. But if Xenoblade 2 keeps it up, that could take it. Stay tuned. So best storyline.
Nick needs to go for that one. Let me think.
Well, it's
Hours
it's a little difficult. Like I enjoy Persona 5 more, but I really do think that Nier Automata probably had the best story.
Good. See, I like how people can separate their favorite.
Well, the Budweiser just brings out it brings out the honesty in me.
Yeah. Best story, I gotta agree. Nier Automata.
See, I didn't play that. There's like just a good amount of games I didn't play that were very story based.
That's interesting.
And I don't want to. I mean, for me, it was Breath of the Wild. But I also just but that's.
I think you mean Switch.
It's I just don't know. I can't really think of another game that I enjoyed the story as much. But that's also because I didn't play some of the other games that they did. So
Well, while you got the Budweiser, what was your favorite music?
Music?
Yeah, what music from a game has stood out to you this year?
I will say that I have been very impressed with Xenoblade as of where I am in the game. I just got to a part and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait for that part.
So yeah, no, you haven't gotten there yet.
And
but it has it's one of those things where I liked Breath of the Wild. I liked how there were quiet moments and the ambient noise was kind of the music to it. But I also really like that in Xenoblade they had some more intense music, and it throughout it I've really liked the music, and I'm so glad that I got the special edition because it comes with the soundtrack.
Yeah, for
so
sure. Now
I can listen to the car.
Boom.
Because that's the only place I have a CD player. Thomas, your turn.
Bringo, totally agree. Xenoblade 2's music, even a third of the way through, hands down my favorite.
All right, look.
yeah.
I love Yasunori Mitsuda.
Yeah.
I love him. He did some of my favorite
The
game
toes are
music
only
of all
dipped.
time.
The toes are only
toes
dipped.
are only dipped.
Yeah.
My toesies are just barely dipped. That's true.
But what did you pump those guns to?
But God damn, Persona has a marvelous soundtrack.
Yeah.
It is so good. Seriously, it's so good. The fuzzy sort of jazz kind of rock thing that they've got going on, the heavy, electric guitar fuzz that they put on the battle themes and the boss themes, it's just so good. It's really the only game soundtrack that I would ever listen to outside of actually playing the game.
The music is awesome in that game.
It's
For
phenomenal.
sure.
And I think Nier had a really great soundtrack, but Nier's soundtrack was more good because of how well it matched the environment, not because of how applicable or accessible
I feel like you could play Persona 5 music outside of our niche nerdy gaming talk, and people would be like, that's pretty cool, but if you're listen to Xenoblade, they'd be like, But from a video game perspective, I guess that's why I appreciate it so much. But man, Nier's music is awesome.
Nier's music is awesome. Persona 5 has a great soundtrack.
Yeah, Persona 5.
Even if you never play the game, check out the soundtrack. It's very good.
So while you've got the Golden Budweiser, gameplay.
Yeah. Man, I gotta give it to Mario Odyssey, I think. Mario, and this is granted, I haven't played Breath of the Wild really enough to form a informed opinion, but Mario Odyssey was one of the most fun games I've played probably all year. I've had a really good time playing other games, Persona, Resident Evil, Nier, but Mario just really captures that sort of giddy excitement that I felt the first time I walked into a Toys R Us when I was 12 and played Mario 64 for the first time. Nintendo just has this uncanny ability to really capture this sort of simplistic, purified joy, when you play a game. And Odyssey is just really fun to play. It's really polished.
Y'all are making this very easy for me because I totally agree. He summed it up best. Mario Odyssey, easily best gameplay of the year.
With the assist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine, it Breath of the Wild.
Fucking shocker!
I really like as I progress in the game. Like you don't get. I mean, you can get buffs and things like that, but like if you don't want buffs, you don't have to have them, and then you can like try to battle like Lionels and things like that are like super difficult. Lionels, yes.
Like Lionel Richie's?
Oh, poor little Nick over here.
Oh.
You gotta play the game, man.
Yeah, that was
It's
a little
okay.
Sorgellian.
So it just was like there's certain bosses
For
and
the Astro.
Yeah, we will.
Hey guys.
That'll be a full video.
Anyway, there's different like mini bosses.
Yeah.
There's different mini bosses throughout the game that I think that like it's fun to play against. I really liked the idea of being able to dodge and like you get certain abilities when you dodge and things like that. But I say this, but I very much like the gameplay of Odyssey, and like that was one of the things that I thought was like the coolest thing about it that kind of took me by surprise is how much I really got into the gameplay because I did the impossible jump. I figured out how to get onto things that you're not supposed to really be able to get on.
But Zelda.
I know.
Yeah,
but it's like honestly, it's really hard for me to determine which one because I've really like thought about this, especially within the last month. Like
a lot of these games have great gameplay.
Yeah, and I think they both have very good gameplay, but for me, it's like it's hard to determine which I think is like technically better because I think that they both have little things about them that I really like, but I think that Mario had amazing, like it really did kind of take me by surprise, and as I kept playing I was like, okay, so I need to learn all these things if I'm going to get good at this game because I can't just like jump and everything's great. No, I need to learn how to jump off my hat. I need to learn how to like wall dodge and then jump off the hat.
There were mechanics I never even used during the main game that I had to use in the post game.
Right, exactly.
That was
no, and that's what I thought was really cool about it is that like you can get by in the main game just playing like normally, but then as the difficulty spikes, you have to like adapt because you're not going to be able to beat some of the levels and it's just funny because there's certain times where I'm like I'm going to die and then I throw my hat and then I jump and then I bump and then I'm on something and I'm like okay cool.
Sounds like somebody's agreeing with the super best friends.
Zelda was better.
Yeah, Zelda. Alright, so let's move on to our lightning round. So Harrison, what you got in front of you? Most disappointing game. So we got two categories, most disappointing and most surprising. So
most disappointing for me was unfortunately Final Fantasy XII, which is a remake, but I had never played.
It was a
remaster.
That came out in 2005.
Remake. It was. I went into it kind of knowing what I was getting into, and I knew that like gameplay, people had issues with it, but I did. I think it was a good game. I did enjoy it. I haven't completed it. But I got to a point where I just got frustrated, and it was like one of those things where I was super excited to play the game, and I got really far into it, but it just for whatever reason it fell flat for me, and I wish that it hadn't because I was enjoying it, but at one point I just was like, I don't know if I can continue going on.
12 does have a big drought in the middle. Starts out great, ends fantastically. But the middle,
and I'm not discounting it. Like also, like I'm not discounting it.
The beginning is very good.
It's very good. I mean, like there's so many.
And then the story evaporates halfway
There's
through.
There's a lot of things that I like about it, but it just for whatever reason, I just got to a point where I lost interest, and I was very excited about the game. I knew what I was getting into from like hearing other people talk about it, and I thought that like I would be able to overlook certain things, but there was just like a couple things that like, no, maybe I did want to just keep playing.
Yeah.
But it was,
we'll continue.
But yeah, unfortunately, that was because it was
a remaster. Like I know it was a game that came out 12 years ago, but it was the first time you played it.
And I think it looked great. I liked the story. Just I got to a point where it was tough for me to continue.
Well, fair point. You should finish it because I feel like
And I will.
The game has a lot to offer towards the end, and the post-game content in 12, I would say, is some of the best of the franchise.
And I will finish it.
Yeah.
Either I'm gonna finish from where I left off, or I'm just gonna start all over.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do plan on finishing it.
We'll have a whole Final Fantasy and review series coming up. I've promised a lot of videos. Anyway, so my most disappointing, while I don't consider it a bad game at all, like Harrison was saying, it's not, it just didn't click with me maybe, but I recognize this, I know it's controversial, everyone loves it, but the Breath of the Wild was just missing the elements of Zelda that I am fond of, but in no way can I dispute it being some people's favorite game of all time. It's just how they feel about it, and but I miss the dungeons, the music, the bosses. I guess it missed parts that I really put stock in, but it was very good. I beat it, and I really enjoyed it. Ta-da! All right, most disappointing.
It's weird to say this.
Yeah.
Don't fight. Be friends.
I'm good.
I love you.
Don't touch
it. It's weird to say this because this is also one of my favorite games of the year as well, and it was your favorite game of the year. But the most disappointing game to me this year was Resident Evil 7.
Ooh, it's funny. It's funny.
And I'm referring exclusively.
Funny, huh?
How am I funny?
No.
Do I mute?
Sorry,
In a non-contentious way.
Hey, it's my time. I've got the
Your time. You got the Budweiser.
Resident Evil 7. It started off so great. It started off so amazing. It was the perfect game for the first 2/3 of the game. It's I don't know. It's like getting back together with an ex-girlfriend, and she's like, "Baby, I've changed. I'm a new woman. Everything's gonna be different now."
But then,
and you go through the first few dates, and it really does seem different, and it's wild. And she's learned some new tricks, and it's amazing. But then she brings out that old dress. And she's still the same girl you used to know. It's the same old bullshit, and they bring in these old
It's becoming misogynist hour.
And I got some stuff to work out. We'll edit around this, but
we all love women.
It starts off. Well, not you.
You outing me on YouTube? Anyway,
we'll edit around.
Well, no, it's fine. It's all seamless. It's gonna be released. Yeah.
But Resident Evil 7. It starts off so great, and then it dives into these old comfort places that the series has found itself in. In
I totally see where you're going, because a good meal.
I'm sort of meandering here, but
you can have that appetizer, you can love that main course, but if that dessert is the grossest thing you've ever had,
baby poop,
what are you gonna remember? What are you gonna remember?
Okay, yeah. So okay, I'm gonna cut. Back in. Okay, so Resident Evil 7
cuts me a lot.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 was one of my favorite games of the year, but it was also one of my most disappointing games of the year because it shirked so many of the old antiquated design decisions. It sort of deviated from the action movie franchisey vibe that 4 started and 5 and 6 continued. And 7 really got back to the roots of this claustrophobic sort of horror, haunted house vibe. And it really cultivated that atmosphere throughout, I'd say, probably half to 2/3 of the game. And it was excellent. It was a perfect game up until a certain point. And then it just
came out.
And then it just takes a sharp nosedive.
It does go to the worst horror movie tropes. It really, I don't know. When I think of it, I've been able to repress from my memory the last third and just remember the good stuff. So, and I hope that I feel like the reception has been unanimous on this. 2/3, please Capcom, run with the ball on that. But the last third, Jesus Christ.
So I'm really exactly.
Yeah.
They did so much well. It's really it makes the last third of the game so baffling. Why?
It's such a hard turn.
Why? It takes a hard turn.
It's going from luscious apple pie with pumpkin ice cream to baby poo. Exactly. But it's still one of my favorite. But I love that. All right.
Was that me?
All right. Most surprising game. Like, what was like? Oh my god. This
Nier.
like, came out. Nier.
Easily Nier.
Yeah.
Easily Nier.
Yeah.
Nier was super
I
surprising.
agree.
See, I
Nier.
wish
I
I
agree
played
with
it
Nier
because then I would, because
I
I
agree
would
with Nier.
probably agree with you.
Nier.
But Breath of the Wild.
No, that's the funny thing is that like
Yeah,
no, I mean, well, I was very surprised with Breath of the Wild. Just joking. For me, honestly, with the games that I played, the one that actually really surprised me, which we haven't talked, well, maybe we could talk about, but it was Splatoon 2. It was a game that like I really like. I thought my girlfriend would like, and we started playing it, and it was just like one. I didn't play it on the Wii U, Splatoon, and I was just like, who cares? And then I started playing it. I was like, this is fun. This is something that like I can pick up and play, and I don't really care. Like if I die, it's not actually about dying or like killing people. It's just like it's just coating things with paint. And like it was like one of those things
And
where
it's better than Final Fantasy 12.
It had a more coherent story.
Yeah. Right.
like the story of it is phenomenal. Actually,
a boy
the
is
funny-
faced against
the
an
funny
empire.
thing about it is that like out of all the games that I really played this year, this game had a career mode, and I didn't even touch the career mode. And usually I'm all about that, but like I only played this game online, and I really had fun. It went from me being someone who didn't know what they were doing to like, okay, I'm learning the mechanics of all this, and they keep giving me
of the
this.
splat.
And it's, yeah.
Could you do ollies in Splatoon 2?
Oh no, it's not like Skate. Skate is an amazing video game.
And that is your favorite game of 2017.
Oh, for
Anyways,
sure.
guys, I feel like we've covered all of our bases. It's been fun.
I
Like,
still
what
have-
a great.
I still have a can.
It's his
And
time.
it's been a great year. Yeah.
It's been real.
It's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. We're gonna try and do a third podcast, hopefully before the new year, but we'll find out, right? So that
Happy
was
2018.
Happy 2018.
We don't see it,
well.
And hopefully it's as good
And
as
again,
2017
if
for
you
us.
don't like what we said, you can comment down below.
Blame
And-
us.
And if you think that we're right on, then like give us a like. And if you don't, you can say that, but like you're wrong.
Yeah, like tell us how you feel about us. Like,
yeah.
come on, like
Again.
like mainstream opinions, mixed opinions, and
Mainstream.
unique, like edgy, like really like YouTube star opinions. You know what's up. All right, so that's
those who wish us well.
yeah. That's it. All right,
right.
thanks for the 2017 guys. All right, see ya. Peace. Yeah.
That was a mess.
No, that's a
That was a mess.
That was like a fucking hour.
That was like really.
Look at this 20-minute video. Oh.